What's up, everybody, to the next episode of Randomz. I'm your host, Ant. I got my guest right here. What's your name?
Gilena Johnson.
Okay. And where you from?
Montclair, New Jersey.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. And what you do?
I am an entrepreneur. Now a serial entrepreneur. Started now to date 4 businesses that are up and running. The latest being a furniture business where we make custom woodwork and designs. So a little bit of everything, right? I like to think I am a jack of most trades and a master of some.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's talk about the first business. How was it starting up a business, for the first time? Was there a lot of anxiety going into that?
Yes. So they say necessity is a mother of invention. I, like most people, I left my hometown. I went to college, ended up going to college in Miami and staying because who wanted to see snow, right? Anytime after that. And went and worked corporate America. So I started working in IT. So I was a project manager and then marketing director for some big IT companies like BlackBerry over time. And I would be the youngest person in the room. I would be the only Black person in the room. And I would be the only woman in the room. Awesome. So it would come with its anxieties. So I got my first manager job, one that paid me well, right? Enough for me to pay my bills, help my mom out, and do all the things and travel and all the things that, someone wants to do in what they call, the quintessential success. And at that point in time, I was 26, right? So I'm managing people that are older than me who don't have any respect. And you're trying to scream, I'm the manager, I'm the one in charge. And then you also had this class of people that were a lot older than me as far as been in the industry for 20 years, kind of set in their ways and don't want to hear what the new blood has to say. So there became clashes, right? And the age-old stereotype, if you're Black, you got to be twice as good to be seen half as great. So I would be coming home working to 2 a.m. And at this point in time, they moved the office, which was an hour and a half drive. Even though it was 10 miles in Miami during high traffic, that's an hour and a half drive each way.
Damn.
So I would be catching my sleep. Like I carpooled with one of my coworkers so I can sleep on the way to work and on the way back. And I was just going through this stress. And at that time, I started dating my now husband. And we had knew each other from college, but we had reconnected that year. And he was like, yo, you're running yourself rugged. You got to do something. And I'm like, no, I have people that depend on me. I got to do everything that I need to do in order to preserve what I thought this idea of success was. Mm-hmm. And then I remember my first time seeing an actual contract where they billed my work to the customer. And it was mid 6 figures. And I'm like, hold up. If I'm worth that much, why am I not getting paid that much? And I thought, hey, I'm getting paid well, right? So as stress piled on, my then boyfriend was like, you have to leave that job. And if you don't leave, it's going to be the end of you. You're already stressed out. You're already not sleeping. And he was like, you're going to work yourself to death and they'll replace you before your obituary hits the newspaper. And I'm just like, but I don't want to leave. I don't want to have, and I did this song and dance for about 3 months. And so happened while I was already taking some time off, I was like, hey, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go to my cousin's wedding. I'm going to do some traveling and I'll come back renewed. Got in a car accident. Damn. So then they say, if you don't sit down, the universe will sit you down. So during that time, I took that as, okay, let me go on short-term disability. I had always had a job since I was 15 and let me just rest, right? During that time, I got my health together. I ended up injuring my back during that accident, but doing physical therapy and things like that. And I was like, I can't go back. It's like, if I go back, what am I going to do? And my husband was like, well, then boyfriend was like, well, I'm going to be doing this coding stuff and I'm going to make websites because I can't work for somebody else. He, you know, in Florida, Black men are still called boys. And because it's the
Really?
South.
Wow.
And even the ones that don't say boy treat you as such. So he had an incident at his job and he was like, no, I'm leaving and I'm just going to start my business. But he was like on this freelancer type thing, right? I'm going to teach myself how to code. And meanwhile, I left this job, started working for a client, and then they decided to downsize 6 months after I started. And I was working from home. They gave me two options. They said, hey, you could either go into the field as a senior sales rep, which I wasn't going to do because I was a marketing director at that time, or you could take a severance package. Even though you've only been here for 6 months, we know we poached you. And I had to have this long conversation with myself and say, what am I going to do? So I took the money, dumped it into my husband's business, and I was like, I can do this. I do marketing for a living. You do the websites, I'll find the customers. And most people thought I was crazy. Right? And my family was like, you sure you want to do that? You know, you could get a job. You have an amazing resume. There's like, but during that time that I had spent home, I acquired this bit of freedom that I wasn't ready to ask somebody if I could have permission to be sick again, or have permission to take a day off because I need to see a family member or what have you. And I wasn't ready to give that up. So kicked it into high gear. The first year we reached the $100,000 mark, and then we found out about taxes. So what that year taught me was that I can do it. If I've been doing it for other people, right, I'm more marketable, and nothing caps my income, nothing caps my calendar, nothing caps my potential but me. So for all the stress, because clients will have you stress, you'll think, did you make the right decision? When you don't get that paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, right, and you're like, all right, is this person gonna pay their invoice on time? It does have that bit of stress, but nothing beats the freedom.
Right. I mean, like the nerves going into it though, like that first like month or so, you know, when you just went all in, like describe that feeling of putting the entire weight of your own survival on your own back.
I had this feeling like I was always confident in my skills, right? I had went around actually teaching other organizations how to get their sales team in order, how to go about cultivating pipelines leads. So I already knew that I could do it. The issue and stress for me came from if I fail, right? Because I don't want to appease the naysayers that say, told you that wasn't going to quite go your way, or people who have your ambitions in a box.
Right.
And ever since I was a little kid, I was always going to do what someone told me I couldn't do by any means. So that's where the most stress came from. Now I will say the first time that I like had my, oh my God, this is really on me moment is when a client didn't pay their invoice on time. And I had bills due, including the rent the next day. Now, I had been living in my apartment at that point in time for like 8 years. I got that apartment when I was a junior in college and stayed. So I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make rent. And I'm calling this person like, you know, your invoice is due, what's going on? And they're just not answering. And then it hit me that if someone doesn't pay me, or if I'm nice to people, say, don't worry, you could handle it next week, or, you know, try and be as amenable as I could to people, that is going to mess me up in the end. And you have bumps and bruises that first month. I learned more about myself, about my work ethic, and what I will allow of people simply because it's trial by fire, right? Oh, you start doing work, I didn't get the contract yet, and you done did the work, right? Or you're scrounging for customers and you're trying to undercut your services as much because you know you're a smaller agency, right? Um, Trying to, cash in on all those first favors that you ever made just to say, hey, let me get a client somewhere somehow. Um, and that's like the major stress that you have. But it comes a moment where like everything lines, even if it is just for a moment in the chaos, that you get that bit of clarity and you're like, I did this. I survived. I made it happen. And that gives you the strength you need to order fight the next day, because when you own your business, there's always a fire to put out, and there will be good days, but most of them is the uphill battle.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people are scared to take that risk nowadays, especially in our generation. I remember listening to a quote from Steve Harvey where he was talking about like in life you just got to jump off the cliff and just know that that parachute is going to open. And I
Right.
believe that describes you in a sense. You know, like you just jumped off the cliff and you just knew that that parachute was going to open. You know what I'm saying? Um, does that go back to faith at all? Is that anything like actually what do you believe in? Do you believe in religion or spirituality?
Um, as I've grown older, it's more spirituality based. I, like most Black people, grew up Baptist. Before I moved to Montclair, I lived in Union with my sister's paternal grandparents. So we was in church. That means church on Wednesday, church on Thursday, church on Saturday, church on Sunday,
I know the
right?
deal. Hmm.
Um, and our kind of social life was constructed around the church, right? So I had always been a thirst for knowledge. So at this point, I might have been 11 when I read the Bible from front to back,
Wow.
right? So I had this strong pull towards faith, right? But then as I moved to Montclair, my maternal grandparent and my cousins and everyone else, just give you some background. In our house in Montclair, basically it was my grandmother, my great aunt, my mother's sister, my great uncle, and between us, 5 kids. All
Wow.
of us a year apart. Um, my cousins grew up mostly like my siblings, because what they did was, versus raising all these kids in a single parent household there, my cousin's father died. My other cousin's parent was absent at that point in time. And my mother had her struggles. And versus raising all these kids in this broken home, they was like, hey, let's all pull together our resources and we'll raise them all together. So you have master personalities, but everyone believed in God. Like my great grandmother, who was alive until I was a freshman in college, right? She made robes for most of the churches in Newark. So we would go to church, but it wasn't something as regimented as it had been when I was in Union. So I still had this connection to faith and just believe people are inherently good, right?
Mm.
Um, but after her passing and after growing up and living on my own, and no one would tell me, hey, you should probably go to church, right? I would still read the Bible, but life happens at the speed of life, is what I like to say. And I always questioned it. Like most like other people, you had a crisis of faith. So I was like, okay, I read the Bible. What else is there? Let me look at some other Vedic writings. I took a religious course in college because you needed a humanities course, and I showed up late to registrar, so I got what was left. And it ended up being a really good course because I am a study scholar by nature. So, I read a lot of the Hindu writings. I read a lot, and they all have a common theme just from somebody else's point of view, right? The stories and characters may change over time, but the principles are all the same. So, even now when, I'm currently reading about Igbo gods and things like that, it also has the same thing. Do more good than you do harm. Don't kill. And if you put in the effort, your faith and your works will be rewarded.
Absolutely.
So yeah, my work ethic and how I govern myself still is rooted in a faith system, but it's more rooted in a spiritual necessity, which says, I know I didn't make all this stuff, right? I wouldn't dare say God doesn't exist, right? But I also know that systems, faith-based systems, can be corrupted by people. So if I just do more good than I do bad, I'll be okay, and just keep providing opportunities for other people and doing right by those who I come in contact with, I'll be fine.
That's right. I totally agree. Totally agree with you. When that comes, when it comes to that, definitely. If you treat others right, it definitely comes back around. I definitely believe that. You were talking about the Vedic writings too. I really, I'm into that too. As far as like chakras, understanding the chakra systems of the body. There's like 66 gods in that religion, though, as far as
Right.
Hinduism. But a lot of people don't know that that's also the oldest religion on the planet is
Right.
Hinduism. In those Vedic scriptures. Really good stuff. Definitely recommend that, for any one of our viewers. So another thing I had wanted to touch on was family life. At what point did you know that you met the man that you wanted to be with for the rest of your life?
Um, how do I say this as a woman? The moment that I wanted to listen. So you're a woman and you're raised by strong women and you spend your time being a strong woman. Um, my all my parental figures, whether it was grandparents or aunts or uncles, they always told us, we don't care if you want to be a basket weaver, you better get a PhD in it, right? So there was no limit in what you could achieve as a person. But I also got to see healthy marriages and relationships. You see some toxic ones, but for the most part, I could say I had good examples of what love looks like. But you go to Miami, and Miami is a shark infested place, right? Especially when you're talking about dating and that's your college life, and you become a young woman with. I've never had somebody pay my bills. I've never had some. I can always buy my own date. I can always get what I want, and it becomes, at the sacrifice of success as a woman, sometimes you lose a lot of the softness and femininity that makes you a woman because you spend a lot of your day literally trying to compete in a man's world. Not
Right.
that you can't. Not that you can't, but like for instance, they say most CEOs of major corporations are borderline psychopaths because you have to be that in order to say that person's life doesn't matter and this person, this is a dollar sign. Women just by nature are more nurturing people, right? So you'll think about the people that you step on along the way and things like that. So that's what I mean, trying to be this hardened or compete in this masculine space, right? Now, you could be really good at it. I was really good at it, right? But sometimes you didn't know how to turn that off. And I have brought that into relationships. Like, how are you going to tell me what I need to do when you paying some bills at the end? I achieved all of this by myself, right?
Yeah.
And they say when you find someone and you find the person that you're willing to submit, right? But I didn't know what that looked like. I couldn't earmark it. I had dated someone off and on for 10 years who lived in Jersey. So I used to be driving my little happy behind 1,200 miles back and forth from Jersey to Miami, right? For what I thought was the love of my life and the end all of be all, right?
Right.
But they say you don't know what you want until you had a whole bunch of things that you didn't, right? Your experiences, how you react to things shape who you are. So there was a hurricane. It was Hurricane Irma? I think that was the last one. So I was at home and he's like, maybe we should evacuate. And I'm like, evacuate? I was here for 2 hurricanes. I've been here. I don't have to leave. Um, all I had to do is get some food and make sure my devices are charged. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Now, he's originally from Florida, so he's lived through Andrew, he's lived through Katrina, he's lived through some of the devastating hurricanes. And I'm like, nope, not moving, not going nowhere. And he backs me into a corner. He was like, you are going to pack your bags and we're leaving. And I was like, leaving to go where? Now, my little sister is in Atlanta. And she was like, he was like, all right, I give her a call. And I'm like, I don't see the point, but I got to come to your house for the hurricane. Ended up getting there. Atlanta had lost power for like 2 or 3 days, but Miami was flooded. Where I was, came back to a whole bunch of mold in my apartment. There was food fights for resources, gas lines, and a lot of people that had power for 3 weeks. So ended up being stuck in Atlanta for about 2.5 weeks at my sister's house. And I think that was the pivotal point where I realized, you know, one, women are going to make decisions based upon our comfort, and men are going to make decisions a little bit more rooted in logic and protection. So it was at that point where I was like, maybe this is going somewhere. And my sister was like, you actually shut up? You listened? And it was something that was slowly happening, but I didn't know it was happening until it presented itself in a place where I could have made my own decision, and I was going to make my own decision, but I realized I trusted this man enough to lead me to what I needed to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that there's not enough women that think like that nowadays. There's a lot of women that's trying to lead the ship, and I believe a man's true place is the head of the household, and therefore, you know, that really helps navigate the entire family forward in a positive manner. Well, when it's the right man and it's the right woman, and that's normally what it all boils down to. So it's a blessing to find that. So, you know, congratulations on that. You know,
Thank you.
how long has it been now?
This is now going to our 6th year together.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I know along the way there were a lot of adversity, you know, especially with 2 businesses at the same time. That's got to be really difficult. You have any examples of some adversity that you faced, you know, recently going through all of this?
Right. So I could say in the first year what PWD is an end-to-end business consulting agency. So that means we're taking businesses from idea to revenue. That is helping them get their legitimacy, you know, your LLCs and things like that, helping them get funded, and then also marketing and sales, right? Because the biggest challenge is not starting a business, is staying in business. And a lot of people are learning trial by fire, right? Have really good ideas, might have bad execution, right? And when people like say go to a mom and pop coffee shop, right, for example, and the coffee didn't get there fast enough, they only see their inconvenience, right? They don't see that Sarah called out for the 3rd time in a row and now they're understaffed, and she was supposed to start the coffee machines and now they had to go out and run and get coffee beans from somewhere else, right? Just the challenges of when you don't have something fully automated like you would at Starbucks or a bigger entity. And we wanted to make sure that these smaller businesses could compete. So I took my background in corporate America for large corporations and was like, how can I scale this so that they could compete legitimately? And what I ended up doing, I was like, these people can't afford all the things that they need. So we scaled back and we tried to make it as cheap as possible and all these little payment plans, right? And we tried to be accessible as we can to small business. while being a small business and starting to employ people and grow. And the first thing we found is that people don't necessarily respect the small business brand, right? They either want corporate big level Google worth of work for pennies, right? Or they just don't adhere to things as they should. So for example, I'm a person that'll assign homework to somebody. I'm like, you need to give me a bio, you need to give me this, this, and this, this, and this for this website, and then for marketing. And then I'll say, okay, where is it? You know, I was talking to my cousin and then I didn't do it. And then I had my daughter's birthday party. And it's like, okay, well, if you had paid the same amount of money or more to a bigger agency, or God forbid, a white agency, right? Especially if it's a small Black business, I wouldn't be having these troubles, right? And I had to learn how to separate my personal feelings. I can't make you want to win more than you can win. And I had to realize that some people may not be able to afford me. So just breaking myself down into chunks, or our processes or our team down into chunks, make them see the value that we are. We had our first website that we ever made, we charged $150 for. And this guy had so much crap on his website, so many problems, ended up being over 90 hours worth of work.
Wow.
Right? And he gave us so much grief for this $150. Well, could you move this to the left? Could you change this? Can you do? And I'm just like, dude, you gave me $150. And then I remember having to say, Gilena, be humble. These are your first sets of clients, this, that, and the third. And then I was like, hey, if I don't value it, and if I take the personal part out of it, I'm going to be much better. So fast forward to a year later, we make a website that's of the same caliber as that $150 website, but we charge $10,000 for it. And we got our money on time. The person did their homework on time. And I didn't have to struggle with the respect for what you want to do, or the business, or the invoices, because the system is automated. We are agency and not your friend, right? We want to see you do well because your success is tied to our success, but we can't handhold you through the process.
That's absolutely right.
So that was probably one of our bigger challenges. And I would say second challenges in growth is retaining and respecting staff, right? When you're the person that's used to doing everything, right? Because at one point when we started the business, my husband was the website and app developer, and I was the marketing person, the salesperson, admin person, secretary if I needed to be, right? And when you do that for some time and then it's time to relinquish control to other people, you become a henpecked warrior. Like, oh my God, are you doing everything that you needed to be doing? Oh, you're doing it. You're not doing it as great as I would have. Let me go ahead and do it. And part of that comes from fear, because you think no one's going to care about something as much as you care about it, because they're just there for a check and you're there because this is your livelihood, right? And the other part comes from most people forget the second step in the business. First step is opening the business. Second part is scaling. So you're not meant to live in that function forever. So from day one, you're supposed to be, who is going to do this for me in this time? Who am I going to delegate this part to? And am I recording all my processes? Because there's no point in owning a business and working those 70, 80-hour weeks during the first initial part of the phase if you're never going to be able to enjoy it, because then you become a slave to that business. It is no longer fun. And it becomes, you'll get burnout. So the first sets of adversities is always, getting paid and valued at what you should be, right? Never cutting yourself short. and then making sure that you're scaling appropriately so that you can take time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Because if not, you burn out. And we got there. I was like, this is looking eerily similar to that job I didn't like. And I was like, and you know, when you work with your spouse, right, you also don't cut it off. So it's like, this is looking crazy. And you have to learn to make those adjustments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think one thing about having a spouse, it's like having a partner to face life with. And when you have a partner to face life with, everything becomes doable in a large scale, you know, like everything just gets easier. And everything, nothing is, you become unstoppable in a sense. You know what I'm saying? When you find that person and y'all connect the right way, just everything in life just falls down beneath you. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like that's what happened with you guys. You hung in there, and you know, and it worked out. And
it gets tough, right? It gets tough because especially when your spouse is your business partner, right? And for lack of better words, you get junior. I used to call it junior white man tendencies, right? So that means that I start to revert back into that corporate America shark that I had to be, right?
Okay.
And you forget, okay, on the other side of this table is the person you love, right? So you have to learn to balance that, especially like, you know, with the quarantine, there's no office. Office is home. So that means we eat, leave, sleep, breathe, work, everything in the same space, right? So you have to, you know, make sure you respect that person, right? You learn to respect boundaries, right? You know when to cut it off. Okay, yeah, that was me at the board meeting, but this is me at lunch. Let's not, right? And yeah, you become unstoppable in a way that you have a parachute. If you know, like when you talked about when you first opened business, you kind of jumping out without a parachute. When you have a spouse and that spouse happens to be your business partner, right? You have the most secure. Right? Can you, is something wrong?
Yeah. It messed up a little bit, but we're back online now. We're good.
If you fail, you're not at the bottom by yourself, right? So we had a second business. I was like, we're both artistic people. Like we both like to write. We both, you know, like arts and all of that stuff. And I was like, PWD is taking up so much time. And now we've started to delegate some of those things to other people and we freed up some time. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And we opened up a t-shirt business. And this t-shirt business did not do well, right? I was like, yeah, I get to graphic design. I'm like, this is awesome. And we had this idea. He spent time making a website. We did the marketing plan. And we just couldn't pour into it like we should have. So we sold maybe like 300 t-shirts over the course of time, over like a year's time. And about t-shirt business, you're talking about margins of money that's like $5, $7 is what you're kind of making off the t-shirt.
Right.
And that was something that we both tried at and we failed. But the difference in failing with a partner, right? Besides who did what and who's to blame, right? When it's all said and done and the smoke clears, you're like, we tried. What are we gonna do next? Right? And you have the courage to continue failing because it's not that bad. Right? Now, of course, other people, you know, I don't tell you to mortgage the house or, you know, there's a lot worse failures than that some businesses and some customers go through. But for the most part, if you have that counterpart, you're just like, okay, what are we going to do now? So hence, we had a secondary business that is in real estate and wholesaling, and that's fine and well. Primarily his space. I just kind of do the marketing stuff. And then now brass tacks. And that was more my thing, is like, hey, I'm gonna tinker. And he's like, if you're gonna tinker, don't have all this crap in the house, because now we have rooms full of wood and tools and all that stuff. But it gives me the courage to say, okay, well, I'm gonna do this. And as long as I had the support of my husband, doesn't really matter how successful it is, because as long as our bills are paid by PWD, I can make whatever tables, chairs, and anything else I want.
Actually, I'm happy that you brought that up. I was actually just about to ask you about that next business. We spoke about that a little while ago. We spoke about the new business of brass tacks. And first of all, I want to say that I really like it, like, because it's got so many different dimensions to it. It looks good. The furniture looks good at the same time. It's got compartments and stuff like that. So it's really highly functional. It's really awesome. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how'd that come about?
Okay, so, I like to say art imitates life, right? I used to watch How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and there's a scene where Taye Diggs buys her this tool so she could do upholstery and stuff with this furniture she makes. And I was like, one day I'm gonna make furniture. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, customers are stressing me out. Everybody wants a piece of you, right?
Mhm.
And you go through hundreds of emails a day, and I'm like, I need something that's going to relieve that bit of stress. So I started tinkering and making like little shelves and art wood pieces. And he's like, if you're going to do this, you need to do it right, because Dollar Tree tools aren't real tools, Gilena. You're going to hurt yourself. I legit had a Dollar Tree saw. Don't judge me. I am the cheapest person alive, right? If they sell houses at Dollar Tree, I'll still only buy one.
I saw it wasn't made out of rubber. I'm surprised.
It worked, but it only worked on like 2x1s. It wasn't really functional. But I was trying, and my birthday had came around, and he went and bought me my first real tools, jigsaw and my first drill set and stuff like that. He was like, if you're gonna sit in here and tinker, one, be safe. Here's these safety goggles. I know you're clumsy. And two, I was scared, so I made him cut all my wood for me. So I used to be like, babe, come cut my wood real quick, and that's how he got involved, because he's like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. So a little bit before the pandemic, so I was just like tinkering, and I'll make things here and there. So when the pandemic happened, and now we're at home, and now we got to fill time somehow, right? And everyone was worried about food insecurity and stuff like that. So we're like, oh, we need to grow our own food. Now we live in a condo, and we live on the 3rd floor. So we don't have an immense backyard. We have a balcony.
Mhm.
So we ended up making planter boxes, and we planted collard greens and tomatoes and a whole bunch of stuff. Try and fail. A lot of stuff died, but a lot of stuff survived. And people were like, can you build me one? Can you build me one? Can you build me one? And so then it started, okay, I'll build you one, and I'll give it away. I wasn't charging anything, just give it away. Until wood and everything started going up. And I'm like,
Right.
hold on a minute. And then after that, we joined a gun club. We are actually members of UP Newton Gun Club.
Salute.
And we met so many like-minded people, and everyone's kind of, the pandemic kind of forced people outdoors to do stuff, right? More people hiking, more people learning how to build stuff, more people learning trades and things like that. And I was like, I wonder if I could make concealment furniture. Like, I was watching John Wick, and
nice.
with all the guns. I'm like, I wonder if I could do that, right? And then we did. And then I was like, told my husband, I want a new bed. He was like, you just got this one last year, but it's not the bed I wanted. It's the bed we got when we moved. And we built a king-size canopy bed.
Wow.
So slowly but surely, I was like, I'm just going to redecorate my whole house with stuff that I want, and I'll find the plan. So there's this lovely lady on YouTube. I believe in YouTube University.
Okay.
Her name is White. And she gives plans on how to build this stuff, like piece by piece. And then I learned software on how to build my own DIY plans, join groups like Black Girls Build on Facebook. And I would find myself getting all these requests, but they were like informal. It'd be like, oh, gee, could you build me this? Okay, what do you want? Well, some that look kind of like this, they might send me a picture. And then I have to figure out how to price it, figure out how to do all this stuff. And I was like, all right, this is taking time. And my husband was like, well, you know your time costs money now. Because I would find myself sneaking off in between meetings with PWD to saw something, stain something, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, well, I did a thing. And I was like, what'd you do? He was like, I bought this domain. I was like, what domain? And hence started building the website. And I was like, okay. He was like, if you want to know, he was like, put some of the pieces that you have already on Facebook Marketplace and see how people respond to them. And people responded well. So, but the clear thing is I didn't want another job, right? What I had learned from the failed business was if you don't have the time to put into it, don't do it, right? You're going to have more headache than anything else. And then you're going to be mad that you wasted your time because either you're going to strike or you're not. And I was like, I don't want another job, right? And some cool people that I met through the gun club, through some new people that we've only lived in Charlotte for about 2 years. In February, it'll be 2 years. Mm-hmm. So we had to start meeting new people, and that's even hard in a pandemic, right?
Absolutely.
So we saw some people were out of work, and they're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I need to find something quick. And that's harder, right? Some people, the unemployment checks were like, most people like to talk about how all these people was getting this free money on these unemployment checks. But for anybody who made over $25,000 in a year, that was less than your paycheck, even with the extra $600. Right? Mm-hmm. So most people, it helped, but it didn't cover, it didn't make ends meet. So now you had, I'm the only female builder, but now you had a couple other men who were skilled. Like we have one guy who is actually a client of ours. His name is Malachi Dawkins. He's up in New York. And he makes epoxy stuff, like your river tables and things like that. And I was like, well, do you want to be part of our collective? And he's like, yeah, I get with that. And other men that we met down here from the gun club and just running into people and knowing people. Yeah, you know how you want to learn how to make a table, you want to learn how to do these things, because trades have been taken out of our community for so long, right? So, you know, the highest, most in demand person right now is a plumber because everyone's home taking shits. And they're making well over 6 figures right now, right? Whereas the essential workers aren't getting what they need to, right? So I was like, here's a crazy idea. We find everyone who could build a little bit of everything, and we share in the work and we share in the profits, and we make it a collective. So then it's not on me just to, oh my God, I got to crank out 100 orders this week. It becomes this network of people who, one, love woodworking and love working with their hands, but two, can use this as an opportunity to earn and provide for their family and make that gap, right? So for me, unlike PWD, which we want to hopefully see franchise business model for that and retire lovely off of it, right? The goal for Brass Tacks is to serve the community, right? We want to give away furniture, like for instance, when most people get those Section 8 vouchers, I swear you can all see that nasty black bedroom set with like the fingerprints all over it.
Right.
And it's terrible, not gold finishings. You
made out of particle board.
Yes, you know exactly what bedroom set I'm talking about. And I don't think that's fair, right? Just because you can't afford it doesn't mean you shouldn't have nice things. And when I look at, my grandmother has had her bedroom set since my mother was a child, and my mother is 55 now.
Oh, wow.
So things like things like cars, things like furniture, stuff like that isn't made to stand the test of time anymore, right? A 64 Cadillac could take a bigger crash than a 2020 Prius, you know?
That's right.
Um, and I think that's a shame, right? And wood furniture is something that can be, you know, you pass down, you know, grandma's bedroom set, you pass down, you know, a wooden crib, you pass down wood furniture, because wood is something that grows in character over time, right? Because
Agreed.
even if it's not your color, you sand it down and you restain it, right?
Mhm.
The warps and the character of the wood grows with your family.
That's right.
So we want to be able to offer furniture that is durable, that's going to last, not just till you make your next move, right? And it falls apart, right? Stuff that kids can jump on and you're not going to get a hole in. But also have stuff that you can have a story, right? Some of the, like, we made a crib one time and it was awesome. Lady, she had several losses and she now was getting to take a baby home. And she's like, I want my crib to have this. I need these embellishments. I want these. I need this insignia carved into it. And people get excited about that, right? Custom builds, love them. But also those standard items that people need, right? People need couches, people need stuff for outdoors. When you talk about holistic items, we're talking about health and wealth. So there's Yoni boxes and stuff like that on the site, which every woman, in my opinion, should use, right? Get the toxins and stuff. If you eat McDonald's, you should be steaming. That's just a simple equation. But also functional, like you said, with concealment stuff, right? Most people have children. Most people aren't going to have, you know, their guns mounted above the door, right? You want them accessible, right? But you also want them hidden away. So a lot of our concealment furniture comes with biometric locks on them, come with fingerprint locks you can choose. So that is still that safety part, but it looks good. You have a badass table. You have a badass painting that you can put on the wall. They don't need to know that it's a rifle there, right? Depending on what happens with this next presidency, might need to hide your rifles. Who knows, right?
Facts.
We wanted to make sure that we had a little bit for everybody, right? The staples, you know, you got to have beds, you got to have, you know, seating, you got to have your outdoor stuff, you got to have tables. But also have fun projects like Jenga boards. Everyone's in the house. A human-sized Jenga board is fun. Things like that. And they're conversation pieces. Nobody ever walks in by, oh, that's a nice piece of plastic chair. They're like, oh my God, the chair. Where'd you get it? What's going on with that? Right? So for us, it provides an artistic outlet. Because if you had to have some of the conversations with customers I do, you don't want to go chop something off too, right? You can't chop their head, but I can turn on this miter saw. But it also provides a collective for men, right, to return to trades. It provides opportunities for additional income for all the builders that's involved. And just like I feel the sense of freedom when we started PWD, for the people involved here, this is their step into the sense of freedom, but they get to go through business with the training wheels. They didn't have to file an LLC. They didn't have to bond anyone, right? They didn't have to, you know, do the marketing or do any of the hard work, but they get to see how a business works. They get to understand, you know, cost of goods versus labor versus profit. And
Wealth of knowledge. Yeah.
it gives them more confidence to translate into other side hustles or other businesses that they can have, because it creates that apprenticeship in business for them. I get to learn how to make some other cool stuff that I didn't know how to make. And at the end, people get great pieces of furniture.
Okay, I was also wondering, like, let's say I was to buy a bed on the website. If I bought a bed on the website, you have to assemble it, right? It comes in pieces and everything like that. Okay, just wanted to make sure it comes in pieces. It doesn't come like a big bed that has to be into a house like that.
No. So for shipping, like we ship worldwide, right?
Okay.
So if it's local, if it's within 200 miles, we will deliver it, right? And if you want someone to assemble it, we'll assemble it for a nominal fee. Now, bigger items, we do not send just USPS freight because that is ridiculously expensive. Anything over 50 pounds will start to cost you $400 or $500. So we use a company called UShip, and basically, if you go to bed, it's going to come in pieces, right? But unlike IKEA, right, who are going to give you an instruction manual that has pictures, like actual colored pictures of where things go, right? You're going to get all the screws and stuff that you need. And a lot of our plans are pocket hole screws. So they're common screws, things that can be hidden, right? So you don't have to see all of from the outside of it, right? Everything looks flush, right? You can assemble everything with a simple hand screwdriver, or, a drill set. Doesn't really take, we actually send you the bit, like something like this. We actually send you the bit with it in case you don't have one, and you're good to go. And we offer warranties. We make sure that things don't get dinged. And the good thing about using UShip is that, one, it helps local businesses. So like, if you ever seen one of those shows where they're kind of bidding on it's like shipping wars. You kind of bid on who's going to take it. And it's typically people who have their own truck or a van or something, and they just kind of pick up things going along that route. UShip is a platform that puts that together. So it helps out another small business, even though, I respect our postal workers, love them, and they severely underpaid, but there's also this gig economy, right? Your Uber drivers, your, people who are making something out of nothing. And we wanted to make sure that we fed that economy too. So it lets shipping be reasonable, because you don't want what you're shipping to cost more than what you bought itself. But it comes together, and it comes with a warranty. So if your bad nephew starts to jump up and down and break it, we'll replace the part.
Cool. Okay, so we're actually running out of time now. I want to know if there's anything that you want to say to the people, like you want to leave them with a story or anything.
I would say, if the saying goes, if you can calculate your dreams, you aren't dreaming big enough. If you're looking to start your own business, one, don't rely on your family and friends to hold it, right? Because after they've ran out their support, it's over, right? And they're not necessarily your customer, right? But they'll support you, or they may not support you because they know you and they're just like, oh, you're big dreaming. And not to say that people will wish you not well, but if they can't comprehend your dream and they can't see it for themselves, you're always going to feel like you're not supported as much. So go after your dreams. Strangers will support you. No worries. There's somebody there that needs what you have, whatever product, whatever service, whatever idea you have. There's someone out there that wants it, right? Think about this. The owner of Grumpy Cat made $100 million in a year. So there's literally a market for everything. And then second, self-care. Because you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to be tired. You're going to be drained. There's going to be things that test your patience, test your faith, and test your common sense, because common sense ain't that common. But the difference is the only common denominator is you. And what most people forget to do, whether that's, parents home stressed out with their kids trying to remote learn or anything else, you have to replenish yourself. Because if you let yourself get so low, right, you're not going to have nothing in the tank to fight the next fight, because there's always going to be a fight, right? In business and life, you're going to have more testing moments than you'll have resting moments. So, whether that's 15 minutes, like I'll go listen to some 90s music and dance up and down, I'll watch something on YouTube, I'll play a game on my phone, and whatever it is, whether it's a bath, whether it's a book, there's anything, take that. If you can't take a whole day for yourself once a week, take those 20, 30 minutes, right? You have the extra time, you scrolling on your phone, I guarantee you got 30 minutes, but take 30 minutes to replenish yourself. And that doesn't mean scrolling on your phone endlessly, because you'll add more insecurities of what somebody else has and you don't, and be scared of the COVID-19 news or whatever. But something that's actually going to replenish you. You know, write down good stories, write down the rewards you want to give yourself when you hit your goals. Read something, learn something, have a conversation with a stranger. Anything that's going to get you out of your day-to-day rut and nourish yourself is going to be time well spent, because you're going to need it, because they're going to test you. So if I had to say that, that would be my key bits of advice.
Absolutely. I mean, wow, that was very, very high powered. I really appreciate this interview today. I appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule and to give us those jewels of the day, really, because it was a lot of things that was in there that were very positive and very inspirational. And I feel like I've gained and I've grown from our conversation today. So I would like to say from the deep down bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on today.
It was a pleasure. And I guess I can say this funny story. The first time I met you, I think I was in 8th grade, maybe. And you were like the tallest person I ever met in my life. Well, that doesn't say much because I was 4'2". But it always makes me happy to see people, growing, living, doing things that make them happy. This podcast that you have here, all these opportunities, it's all a stepping stone in letting people express and be the best version of themselves, right? So I wouldn't be the businesswoman that I am if I didn't offer an opportunity. So was talking with the guys last night. So what we want to do is partner with Randomz, and we'll give you a coupon code where all of your customers get 10% off, and we'll give you a kickback of 5% of anybody who buys using your code.
First of all, thank you. That's awesome.
Diversify. I'll send you over the details via email, but I feel like every time you come in contact with somebody, make an impact and impart something. And then if they do something good for you, do something back.
That's right. Wow. Lots of love, lots of good energy. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I hope everybody heard that, check this out. You know what I'm saying? You definitely want to make sure that you get one of these pieces of furniture. They're super dope. What's the name of that website one time?
It is brasstackswoodworking.com.
That's right. So check that out. I'm talking about these pieces are phenomenal. You're going to love it when you see it. So make sure that you put in that coupon code. It should be right in the description below. So check that out. And once again, thank you so much for having you on the show. And to everybody watching, y'all be safe. Y'all stay strong. And remember, believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Believe in yourself. All right.
Love it.
Peace.